Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law. For today's story, we turn our attention to Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, PD, and Love, also known as Sean Combs, who has been indicted by the feds for various misdeeds. And we're going to read the indictment, which was released a little bit ago. So he's been arrested and charged, and the indictment has been released this morning. So we're going to go ahead and cover that. We bring our attention to the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. The feds want him, and it's the Southern District, which tends to really not play around. It tends to be one of the more preeminent federal districts because that's where all the financial crimes happen, because that's where Manhattan is. So they got a lot of resources up there. They do a lot of financial stuff, and also they tend to be one of the more well-financed and more prestigious offices of the federal government. So of its 94 federal districts, the Southern District of New York may be the most famous, and it's definitely notable. So it's like, yep, they're definitely bringing their A game. All right, so let's see what Sean did. What did you do? All right, racketeering. All right, great. Good, we're on our way to Rico. I love it already. Racketeering, that's great. All right, fine. It may be Rico, my friends. The grand jury charges that for decades, Sean Combs, also known as Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, PD, and Love, the defendant, abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. Okay. To do so, Combs relied on employees, resources, and influences of a multi-faced business empire that he fed and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempt to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapped, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Wow, we're off to a great start here. All right, so we've got racketeering, conspiracy, and presumably we're going to do enterprise corruption at some point too, because we turned our legitimate business into an illegitimate business. And so, yeah, that's good. We're on our way. Sean Combs, Puff Diddy, Diddy, PD, and Love operated his businesses headquartered in various times in Manhattan, so there you go, and Los Angeles, under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Entertainment, and Combs Global. The corporate entities into the Combs businesses included, among other things, a record label, recording studio, apparel line, alcoholic spirits business, marketing agency, and telephone network and media company. Back in the time when it was legitimate, yeah, that's probably some of the things they were doing. And that would be fine because, those are all legal things. And then you did illegal things, and that's less okay. At all times relevant to the indictment, they're going to really spell out his names every single time. That's okay. I'll say it every single time because it's funny. At all times relevant to the indictment, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, PD, and Love engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. The abuse at times was verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of the pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participating in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. Okay, so he is essentially forcing women to engage in prostitution as Johns, which is an odd thing to do on a number of levels. I mean, normally in these kinds of situations, you are manipulating the women to act as the prostitute, right? That's what you normally are thinking of in that kind of situation. You get the women and you coerce them into being prostitutes. That's normally what you read. But in this situation, apparently we're manipulating the women into being Johns, which is an odd take on this situation, but that's what I guess we're doing. Okay. At times, Combs and others acting as direction made arrangements for women and the commercial sex workers to fly to the location. All right, guys, you heard that, right? You heard the fly part? You heard that fly to his location? And if the alarm bells aren't going off in your head, you're not thinking federal, man. It's like, oh, we're transporting the people across state lines for the purpose of forcing them into sex acts. Oh, Oh, that's trafficking. Oh, that's the trafficking. Yeah, if the alarm bells aren't going off in your head, it's like you're not paying attention. Yeah. Combs ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics from them. Good. Controlling their careers, leveraging financial support, and threatening to cough off the same and using intimidation and violence. Good. Physical abuse by Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, PD, and Love, the defendant, were recurrent and widely known on numerous occasions from at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years. Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. These assaults were at various times witnessed by others, and at least in one instance at a Los Angeles hotel in or around March 2016, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. When a member of hotel security intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. Nice. Combs' violence was also not limited to women, extended to employees, witnesses to his abuse, and others. Nice that he's equal opportunity, I guess. Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, PD, and Love used the Combs businesses, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his abuse. That would be the enterprise corruption. That would be the enterprise corruption. If New York isn't already filing a lawsuit for enterprise corruption, I'd be amazed. But yes, when you take a legitimate business and you start to do illegitimate things with the legitimate business, that's called enterprise corruption. Okay, because you've taken the legitimate business and you've now polluted it with illegal things, and that's illegal. And, among other things, it would allow the state government, because businesses are regulated under state law, it would allow the state government to seize the business and to appoint an administrator and have the state run the businesses themselves. So New York itself may wind up being the owner and operator of P. Diddy's business enterprises run by the state of New York. Could happen. So we're going that way. All right. What did you do? From at least in or about 2018 through about the day of the filing. Really? He's continuing up to the present day? Damn. Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, Diddy, PD, Love, the defendant, known and others, known and unknown, were members and associates of a criminal organization, also known as the Combs Enterprises or Enterprises. It became a criminal organization. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprises engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, sex trafficking, that would be the transporting the people across state lines, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purposes of prostitution, which is trafficking, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction. Yeah. The Combs Enterprises, including its leadership, members, and associates, constituted an enterprise as defined by law. That is, a group of individuals associated in fact, although not a legal entity. It could be a legal entity, and in this case, is a legal entity, but it doesn't have to be. So, if you form a group, because that would be the mafia, right? A mafia is an enterprise too. So it doesn't have to be a legitimate enterprise. In this case, it was, but, it doesn't have to be. The Combs Enterprise consisted of Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, PD, Love, entities within the Combs businesses, including but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, and Combs Global, individuals employed by and associated with Combs, and others known and unknown. Great. The Combs Enterprises consists of an ongoing organization, which is important for Rico purposes, at least on the federal level, because we need a continuous. We're heading our way into Rico charges. We're just setting up Rico predicates. I mean, we're setting up Rico predicates. It's like, well, we got our active, it's like, yeah. The The Combs Enterprise constitutes an ongoing organization whose members function as a continuing unit for common purposes of achieving the objectives of Combs. The Combs Enterprises were engaged in the affected activities included interstate and foreign commerce. The Combs Enterprises operated in the Southern District of New York, which is what gives the jurisdictional hook for the feds. Not that the Southern District of New York usually needs to look for it, because usually they can find it, but here that's where they're based, so that makes that real easy. At other times relative to the indictment, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, P. D. and Love was the leader of the Combs Enterprise. I mean, fair enough. He's the mafia don. The Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Diddy, P. D. Love, the defendant, and others known and unknown, participated in unlawful and other activities related to conduct of Combs Enterprises. These individuals included certain business employees, such as members of Combs security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, as well as other close associates. Good. Purpose of the Combs Enterprises. The purpose of the Combs Enterprises included the following: operating a global business in media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, including, among other things, record labels, recording studios, apparel lines, alcoholic spirits, marketing, and television network. See, all that was legal. Part A is legal. You can do all those things. You can run a record label, you can run a recording studio, you can run an apparel line, alcoholic spirits, although you're going to want to, take care of state law on that one because of the, 18th and 21st Amendments respectively. Marketing agencies, telephone, yeah, all that's legal. All those things would be fine. Part B, where things might start getting a little less legal, we'll see. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power. Did the U.S. attorney try for the alliteration? Are they trying? Preserving, promoting, protecting, and enhancing the power. Okay, reputation and brand of Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, P. D. and Love, the defendant, as musician, entrepreneur, and figure in the media industry. That's legal too. Enriching members and associates of the enterprise, including its leader, and particularly those who determine loyal and willingness to conceal his crimes. See, that part's less legal. Giving bonuses to your employees because they do a good job, legal. One of the jobs they do, concealing your crimes, less legal. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the powers of Combs Enterprises, including the power of its leader, which that part's legal, but the means maybe less so. Right? So preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of the leader of the business, all that's legal. The means chosen are the problem. In this case, violence, use of firearms, threats of violence, coercion, and verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Not legal means towards the end. Fulfilling the personal desires of Combs, legal. Particularly related to sexual gratification, also legal. Including through the exploitation of women and the use of commercial sex workers, illegal. Enabling Combs and other members of the associates of Combs to engage in unlawful acts of violence, including sex violence, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purpose of prostitution, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics distribution, and other crimes. Securing absolute loyalty from members of Combs Enterprises, legal, including through acts of violence, illegal. Protecting the Combs Enterprises members and associates, including Combs, from detection and prosecution by law enforcement authorities through acts of intimidation, manipulation, bribery, and threats of retaliation against individuals who witness crimes. All very illegal. It's not going great over here. Means and method of the enterprise. Among other means and methods by which Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, P. D. and Love, and other members and associates conducted and participated in the conduct of the Combs Enterprise include the following. Combs and other members of Combs Enterprise wielded power and prestige of Combs' role at Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit. I like the imagery. I'm not sure if it's over the top or not. I don't know. I can't quite decide if it's over the top or not, but it's okay. Yeah, lure into the orbit. I don't know, man. Something about the phrasing is maybe a little bit too much, but for my taste, but you could disagree. Often under pretense of a romantic relationship, Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sex acts with male commercial workers that Combs referred to as, among other things, freak-offs. Okay, freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of Combs Enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers across state lines, danger, Will Robinson, and internationally. Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial sex workers. I like the fact they keep using the phrase commercial sex workers instead of prostitutes, and I'm not sure why, but the more and more I hear them use the phrase commercial sex workers, and I don't know why, but the more and more they say the phrase, I'm just like envisioning like it envisions like an actual business. Like I'm going to Burger King or something and picking up a commercial sex workers. Commercial sex workers are us. I don't know, something about the phrasing as you hear more and more of it, it's just funny to me. We don't want to call them prostitutes though, for some reason, even though that's clearly what they are, but we'll call them commercial sex workers, I guess, because that sounds nicer. Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasting multiple days, involving multiple commercial sex workers. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances, in part to keep these victims obedient and compliant. Yeah, exactly. Green-eyed Southern girl. Do they have a union? Yeah. Commercial dock workers, commercial sex workers, both part of Local 234. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I appreciate that you have a similar mindset. What would a union for prostitutes be like? That would be an interesting concept. What would a union for prostitutes be like? What would their demands as workers be? That would be an interesting union negotiation. Pressing on. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise include high-ranking supervisors, security staff, equal pay for equal lay. Green-eyed Southern girl, you get 1 bonus point. That is a great comment. I approve. That is a great comment. Equal pay for equal lay. That is hilarious. +1 channel point. You are a champion. Members and associates of Combs Enterprises, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and Combs Business Enterprises, facilitate the freak-offs, including, among other things, booking hotel rooms for freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with the required freak-off supplies. Do I want to know what the required freak-off supplies are? I'm not sure I do. Including controlled substances. Okay, they're going to tell me. Including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. Cleaning hotel rooms after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage. Well, it's nice at least they clean up after themselves, so I'll give them a plus point for that. I mean, many rock stars just trash rooms, but at least they're making an effort to clean up after themselves. So they took their mother's advice and cleaned up after themselves. So they get +1 point for trying to clean up. That's a good thing to do. Okay. Arranging for travel for victims, commercial sex workers, and Combs to and from the freak-offs, resupplying Combs with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to Combs to pay for commercial sex workers, and scheduling the delivery of IV fluids. Cool. In or about March 2024, during short searches of Combs' residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies. Freak-off! Tashik, Freak off. Okay. Including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Nice. Combs subjected the victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage in the freak-offs. Combs maintained control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promises of career opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support, and by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts. That sounds like it could be stalking. Dictating the victim's appearance. Well, that part's probably, trying to separate the legal from the illegal in this is an interesting effort that I've apparently decided to do. I've apparently decided I'm going to try to separate the legal from the illegal in this. And so now I'm like debating, okay, so he tracked them. Okay, that might be stalking. Maybe that's legal, maybe that's not. All right, dictating their appearance. Well, asking someone what to wear. I mean, that's might be legal. But I do love the fact that I'm trying to gradiate like what is legal and what is illegal in this horror show Indictment. But you gotta bring some levity to it somehow. So we gotta do something. Monitoring their medical records. Again, if you're not doing that with consent, that could be a problem. Controlling their housing. If you're forcing them to live certain places, that's a problem. And supplying them with controlled substances. Okay, that's just flat out illegal. Unless you're a doctor, which I'm pretty sure you're not. During and separate from the freak-offs, Combs, among other things, hit, kick, threw objects at, and dragged victims at times by their hair. See, that's not nice. Don't do that. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Combs also threatened victims' careers and livelihood, including if they resisted participating in the freak-off. Victims believed they could not refuse the demands without risking their job security, withholding repercussions in the form of physical or emotional abuse. Yeah, you can't do that. And also that's a hostile work environment, man. That's a hostile work environment. You're opening yourself up to some civil lawsuits, discrimination on the basis of sex. You've got some civil rights violations. You got some civil liability here too. Okay, good times. Combs also used the sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings he made as collateral to ensure obedience. Otherwise, that's called extortion. That's called extortion. Why don't you just say that though? Why are you just dancing around it? U.S. government. Why don't you just say the word? It's called extortion. When you use information to try to force someone to do something they don't want to do, that's called extortion. That's illegal. Members and associates of Combs Enterprises, including Combs security personnel, at times carried firearms, which may be legal. Check your jurisdiction. On more than one occasion, Combs himself carried, which might be illegal, or brandished, which is not, to intimidate and threaten others, including victims of witnesses to his abuse. In or about March 2024, during searches of the residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s. Three AR-15s. Okay. With defaced serial numbers as well as drum magazines. Members and associates of Combs Enterprises enabled Combs control over victims by following his directions regarding financial payments to victims, advancing or suppressing his victims' career opportunities, and acquiring the controlled substances. Members and associates of Combs Enterprises at times witnessed Combs' violence towards the victims or victims injured by Combs without intervening, which they don't necessarily have to intervene, by the way, no affirmative duty. But, instead, members and associates helped conceal the violence. See, that you can't do. You may not necessarily have to help, right? No affirmative duty. You may not necessarily have to help. So can you see, if you're employed by a business and you see your employer beating the shit out of a woman, are you allowed to do nothing about it? Generally speaking, yes. Generally speaking, yes. You are allowed to do nothing about it because no affirmative duty. But once you start helping them in covering it up and concealing it, now you have a problem. So, yeah. Okay. These occasions included instances in which a victim was required to remain in hiding, sometimes for several times a day, to recover from injuries inflicted without being publicly observed. Members and associates of Combs also assisted Combs in locating and contacting victims who attempted to flee his abuse. Eee, that's not great. When employees witnessed to his abuse or others threatened Combs' authorities or reputation, Combs and members of his associations engaged in acts of violence, threats of financial or reputational harm, and verbal abuse. These acts of violence included kidnapping and arson. Neat. In addition, on mobile occasions, Combs threw both objects and people. He threw people? Oh, I mean, it's what it says, as well as dragged, choked, and shoved others. When Combs's authority or reputation was threatened by the possibility of negative publicity or legal or law enforcement action, including in or about late 2023 following public allegations of Combs's crimes, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise pressured witness victims, including through attempted bribery. That's illegal. You can't threaten witnesses to a crime. You can't bribe witnesses to a crime. That's illegal. That's illegal. There's video of him throwing a girl in a hotel. I'll take your word for it. It's just, okay, he threw a girl in a hotel. Noted. Thank you for the information. And through bribery to stay silent and not report on what they experienced or knew. See, when you pay them not to do it, that's a problem. Or you pressure them not to do it. They're not required to do it, right? So as long as once we're here trying to learn something of legal value, right? A witness, generally speaking, does not have an obligation to inform the police actively about what they witnessed. So again, if I saw my employer beating the shit out of a woman and I decide to do nothing about it, that's my prerogative. I'm not required to do something about it. If I try to conceal it, now I have a problem. If my employer pays me not to report it, that's a problem, right? He can't do that. I can choose not to do it out of my own free will. But if he pressures me or bribes me to do it, that's a problem. So as long as we want to learn these gradations in law, I'm here to help. The racketeering conspiracy. Rico, 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 Rico. From in or at least 2008 through or about the dates of the filing of this indictment in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, PD, and Love, the defendant, and others known and unknown, persons employed by and associated with Combs Enterprise, described in paragraphs 6 through 12, in an enterprise engaged in the activities of which affected interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed with each other to violate the racketeering law of the United States. That is, to conduct and participate directly and indirectly in the conduct of affairs through the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering. Rico, 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 Rico. Consisting of multiple acts involving kidnapping, chargeable under the following provisions of state law. And then we cite some provisions. Multiple acts, and by the way, for that matter, the state acts could themselves be predicate acts for a federal crime, right? So state crimes can be a predicate act. So like these are state law violations, but nevertheless, as part of a pattern of activity that goes across state lines, right? So yes, we have crimes occurring wholly within the state of California, to which those crimes in and of themselves, the federal government doesn't really have much say insofar as it goes. But now we've combined them with other exciting crimes and other exciting jurisdictions, and we have people transporting across state lines and so forth and so on. So these state crimes now become an element in a federal crime, exciting and fun. So we did the kidnapping under various provisions of California law, multiple acts involving arson involving California law, multiple acts indictable under U.S. Code for tampering with a witness, multiple violations of U.S. Code for forced labor, which has been illegal for a little while now. Did you know that? Did you know forced labor has been illegal for a little while now? It's true. We had a constitutional amendment over it and everything. Multiple acts indictable relating to sex trafficking, multiple acts indictable relating to transportation and inducement to travel for the purpose of prostitution, which is trafficking, multiple offenses including possession with intent to distribute or distribution of a whole bunch of controlled substances, and aiding and abetting there too. Is part of the conspiracy that Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, PD, and Love, the defendant, agreed that a conspirator would commit at least 2 acts of activity involving the conduct, which is a predicate for the Rico. You need at least 2 acts occurring within a 10-year time period for federal Rico. You need at least 2 acts occurring within a 10-year time period that are part of a contemporaneous series of events. There is a nexus requirement for the events to be related to like the same thing. So it's a little bit hard to describe in words. I make this point, by the way, because, for example, Georgia, when they were charging Trump, they don't have this requirement, or they have a much looser version of it. So the reason I'm trying to describe is like trying to provide some value here. So different states obviously have different versions. In the federal version, for its count as Rico, it's a little hard to describe, but it has to be involved. It has to be related to the same fundamental purpose, I guess would be the best way of putting it. Like the same overarching, they have to have a connected thread. They have to be related in a connected event. So you can't, as for federal Rico, you can't like have a kidnapping and like a racketeering and like a bribery and like a thing that are all distinct, that like they have to be interrelated. So the fact that they are interrelated is a predicate factor for the Rico. So just to let you know something. From up to at least 2009 until up to about 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, part of the agreement to conduct and participate in the conduct of affairs of the Combs enterprise through the pattern of racketeering, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, and PD, and Love, the defendant, agreed to in affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly to recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, advertise, maintain, patronize, and solicit by any means a person known and in reckless disregard of the fact that the means of force, threats of force, fraud, coercion, and any combination of such means in violation of law. Yep, it's not going great. Sex trafficking. Count 2. So count 1 was our Rico, was our racketeering. Count 2, sex trafficking. From in or about 2009 up to about 2018, in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, PD, Love, the defendant, in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, advertised, maintained, patronized, and solicited by any means a person, knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion as described by law, and any combination of such means would be used to cause the person to engage in a commercial sex act and attempt, aid, and abetted, and willfully cause the same, to wit, Combs recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, and maintained a person, and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willful caused victim 1 to engage in commercial sex acts, known in reckless disregard by the fact that victim 1 was engaged in commercial sex acts as a result of force, fraud, and coercion. Exciting. Count 3. Transportation to engage in prostitution. From at least 2009 up until 2024 in the Southern District of New York, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, PD, Love, the defendant, knowingly transported an individual in interstate and foreign commerce with intent to engage in prostitution, which is pretty illegal. And attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the same. To wit, Combs transported, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the transportation of female victims and commercial sex workers. Again, there's that phrase, commercial sex workers. Commercial sex workers makes me want. The commercial sex workers, the phrase makes me want to see if the prostitutes of Nevada need organization. Do we need to start handing out union cards at brothels in Nevada and see if we can get these part of a local? That'll be great. They'll join the Teamsters. It'll be fantastic. Woof. Too funny. As a result of the committing of offenses alleged in count 1, commercial means more sturdy than consumer. Nice, James. As a result of committing the offense and alleged in count 1 of this indictment, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, Diddy, Love, and PD, the defendant, shall forfeit to the United States any and all interest. So basically criminal asset forfeiture, which I have zero problem with intellectually. Once you're convicted, give us all the things. Yep. So we want, so we want any interest, security, which, securities is like stock. So we want interest, securities, claims against property, contractual rights of any source of influence the enterprise named. So the U.S. government might wind up running Combs Enterprises, which would also be hilarious. Combs Enterprises brought to you by the DOJ. The DOJ is over here like, I'm Slim Shady. Yes, I'm the real Shady. And you're like, yes, you are. You are, in fact, the Shady of the Shadies, my friend. No one holds a candle to you. Yeah, we respect. You think we get the AG to start throwing down some bars? That'd be good. The Merrick Garland the Merrick Garland diss track. Does this qualify as a diss track? If not, maybe we can put the music or something. That'd be funny. I'm here for these ideas. And any or all property consulting and derived from the proceeds obtained directly and indirectly, said offense, including but not limited to a sum of money representing the amount of proceeds traceable to the offense. In other words, give us all the money you ever got as a result of all this bad stuff. Give us all the monies. As a result of committing the offense of the indictment, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, PD, and Love, the defendant shall forfeit to the United States any and all property, real and personal. Real property just means real estate, means land and homes, involved in, used in, or intended to be used in, or facilitated the commission of the offense. So give us any place that these things occurred in. Yeah. And any property traceable to that property, any and all property, real or personal, constituting or derived from proceeds obtained directly or indirectly as a result of the offense, including but not limited to a sum of money representing the amount of property in the offense traceable to the commission. So give us all your property too. As a result of the committing of the offense, shall forfeit to the United States any property, real and personal, constituting or derived from proceeds obtained directly or indirectly as a result of the offense. So again, give us anything you basically got as a result of this. So give us all that stuff. We'll take all that too. And in the event that, we can't find any of that stuff, then just give us anything else of the equal value. So in the event that those things cannot be found, we'll take anything else you happen to have up to, of the same value. And all that stuff. So good times. So that's all those things that are going on there. And that is the end of the indictment, which is super exciting. So I will now take a few questions. Let me just pull up the feed and we will answer a few questions. Let's see. All right. Anyone have any questions about this or anything you want to know? I mean, yeah, I guess we could try to find what the penalties are, would be an interesting thing to do for this. We could try to run a quick calculator on it. I'm assuming it's like serious time though, 30 years or something. Just a quick recap. Yeah, a quick recap is that Sean Diddy, Puff Daddy Combs has been indicted by the feds for racketeering and sex trafficking and is probably going to jail for 30 years. That's the short of it. So, yeah. The forfeiture can only happen post-conviction, correct? It's criminal asset forfeiture. So in the event, well, when he is convicted, because yeah, when he is convicted, they will seize all of his stuff. Do the commercial sex workers get no tax on tips? You'd have to ask the Harris administration about that one. Yeah, you got me on that one. Did he done it? He did do it. He did it very, very much. Yes, they definitely did it. 100%. How many amendment violations would Barnes find for this one? Don't know. You'd have to ask Barnes on his more creative interpretations of things. I will continue to note that most of Barnes's ideas did not appear in the formal thing from Nick. So yeah, even for Nick, a lot of those were too spicy, which makes sense. Is Tangled? It might be Tangled. We'll see. No tax on any sex work payments from what you understand. You understand poorly. It's income. So you have to pay tax on it. Yeah, you have to pay tax on earnings you make as a prostitute because it's income. Nevada doesn't have state income tax. So you might be thinking of that. But you definitely have to pay federal income tax. Plus, since it's no, I'm not sure whether or not you can take a business deduction for it under federal law or not. I don't know. I was about to say, since it's illegal, you can't take a deduction for it. But if you're in Nevada and you're within the counties in which it's legal, you might be able to take business deductions for it because it's a legal business. I don't know federal law that well, but you're definitely on your own on that one. Nevada does not have state income tax, no. Presser's about to start with photos of evidence. Outstanding. I'll stay on for that then. I'll stay on for the presser. I work in tax. They pay taxes. Yeah. Can they take business deductions for it in Nevada? 280E says you can't. Maybe that's true. I don't know the tax law that well. I literally took 1 day of tax law. I took 1 day of tax law in law school, and I was like, nope. And I dropped that class and I took something else instead. I was like, this is not the subject for me. I noped out of that. Let's see if we can. Ain't no way a hooker's reporting taxes. I'm just saying you need to. I'm just telling you what the law is. Whether you do or not, who knows? I'm just telling you the law. It's my job. I wonder if he gave FMLA if one was unable to attend freak-offs. He may not have had to give FMLA. FMLA only applies to businesses of a certain size. I don't know whether or not his business is large enough or not. It might be. But unclear whether or not he's required to give Family Medical Leave Act. I think the threshold is 50, but it's been a while. I'm killing you. If my jokes are working, then hey. If the comedy works, then we'll do what we can. Why is cannabis legal in some states? They figured out how to tax it. There might be a lot of reasons why it's legal in some states.
On occasion in March of 2016.
All right, let's go ahead and watch this presser. Let's get this up and running. Watch the DOJ talking about this. So give me a second to get this up and running. Oh, there it is. Hiding from me is what it was doing. Hiding. Do I still have a button for this? That's the wrong button. Well, whatever. I'll just do it this way. All right, let's go back. Get to the start of this conference. They just started about 5 minutes ago. All right, cool. Excellent. All right, let's listen to this thing.
Morning, everyone. My name of New York. Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation. Today I'm Morning, everyone. My name is Damian Williams, and I'm the U.S. Attorney here in the Southern District of New York.
All right, so he is the U.S. Attorney. So he's the head of the office, which is a pretty prominent position. And Southern District of New York is, again, one of the most prominent positions. So, yeah, he's the guy. All right, fair enough.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers and often involved a variety of narcotics such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs. And that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair. On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee. As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse. The indictment also alleges other acts of violence undertaken by Combs and others, including violence against witnesses to his abuse, kidnapping, and arson. The indictment alleges that on more than one occasion, Combs carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten victims and witnesses. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with Rico conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. The indictment alleges that those individuals facilitated the freak-offs. They booked the hotel rooms and stocked them with the supplies, including drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. When the hotel rooms got damaged, they helped clean it up. They arranged for victims and commercial sex workers to travel for the freak-offs, and they delivered large quantities of cash to Combs to pay for the commercial sex workers. The indictment also alleges that they helped Combs cover up his crimes. During the March 2016 incident at the LA hotel that I mentioned earlier, a member of the hotel security staff intervened, and Combs attempted to bribe the staff member with a stack of cash to make sure that what happened was kept quiet. And as the indictment alleges, in late 2023, after public allegations were made about Combs' crimes, he and others pressured witnesses and victims to stay silent, including by making phone calls to witnesses and victims and giving them a false narrative of what they had experienced. And as alleged, Combs used others to help conceal his abuse by monitoring and preventing victims from leaving a location in order to hide their injuries, or by locating and contacting a victim who had attempted to flee. As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs' electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs, more than 1,000 bottles altogether.
You know, once again, as so common in our modern era, the evidence of the crime is coming from inside the house, the videotapes. the videotapes. Guys, I don't know who I'm talking to. It's like collectively, everyone, you gotta stop videoing your crimes, people. Okay, please stop videoing you doing the TikTok scam, you know, that I posted earlier today. Please stop doing the video of, oh boy, I found an exploit at the ATM. Watch me deposit this fake check and withdraw the money. Please stop snitching on yourselves with social media and other videotapes.
Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches. As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well that we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced.
Why didn't you put that in the indictment? It's illegal to deface the serial number of a firearm. Why didn't you put that in the indictment? That's a felony. You can't do that.
Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there. Now I want to be clear about 2 things. First, this office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York. Second, we are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly. Anyone with information can call 1-877-4HSI-TIP. I want to express my deep appreciation for the victims and witnesses who have used their voices and helped bring this criminal conduct to light. We would not be here without them. I also want to thank the dedicated case agents on the HSI Trafficking in Person Squad in New York. They have been with us since day one and have worked tirelessly on this investigation. They will continue to be invaluable partners to us. I also want to thank the incredible agents and analysts from SDNY who have also provided tremendous assistance on this case. I'm deeply grateful for their continued work. And finally, I want to thank the outstanding career prosecutors from SDNY who are handling this case. Meredith Foster, Emily Johnson, Chrissy Slavic, Madison Smeisler, and Mitzi Steiner, and their supervisors, Jamie Backleiter and Jacqueline Kelly. They are members of the Civil Rights Unit in our criminal division. We created the Civil Rights Unit when I became U.S. Attorney. I'm deeply proud of their work on this and so many other cases. I'll now take some questions.
Eric Katursky, ABC.
Thanks, man. Damian, thanks. The indictment describes aggressive, open, violent.
Interesting here that I assume these are all lawyers from the SDNY's office. I mean, the only other alternative is that they're victims, which makes no logical sense. First of all, they're all wearing black, which is slightly odd. I mean, business attire, but still, like, it's all a little monotone. And second of all, like, the fact that it's all women is odd to my taste. I mean, why is it all women that are there? I don't really quite understand that. I don't get it. All right.
Hedonistic abuse that you say was recurrent and widely known. Why did it take law enforcement so long to intervene? How many women were victimized by Sean Combs, and how many others were involved?
You think they're victims? I don't know, man.
Look, our investigation is ongoing. We are committed to bringing justice to everyone who's been victimized by the defendant. I can't tell you why it took so long. I think the better focus is on the fact that we are here today. And we are committed to making sure that justice is done. Next question.
Thank you. Julia Ainsley, NBC.
Thank you for doing this. You said we're not done and that Combs did not do this alone. Do you foresee that there could be other charges related to this case?
I'm not taking anything off the table.
Janet Fisher, Newsday.
What's the difference between the sex trafficking and promoting travel for the purpose of prostitution?
Well, there are different crimes with different elements. I don't think we should get into the nitty-gritty of the legal discussion right now, but the sex trafficking, we believe, they're all serious offenses, but the sex trafficking conduct carries some significant penalties, and we are gratified that we were able to bring that charge.
Is one more coercive than the other?
I'm not going to be able to get into that, but you can look it up, and yes, sex trafficking, especially when it involves coercion or force, is a very serious crime, and it carries significant penalties.
Good afternoon, Darla Miles, ABC 7 New York. Thank you for this press conference and for the...
Would I feel bad if they're all men? It's just odd. Pandora, it's not sexism. It's just odd to me. If they are assistants from the U.S. Attorney's Office, it's just odd to me that they're all women. It's just odd for I think it's odd. I don't know what to tell you. I just think it's weird.
Details, 2 questions. In context of this indictment and the information that was presented to the grand jury, are you able to clarify the number of victims? It's mentioned plural in the indictment, but
I don't know if that's bias or not. You can determine for yourself whether it's bias or not. I just think it's weird. I just think it's odd. So if you think it's biased, then okay. I don't know what to tell you.
Can you specify the number of victims just for this particular indictment? And secondly, can you provide details about the alleged arson?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to provide either. The number of victims, you are correct. We are intentional in saying multiple. The details of the arson incident are limited to...
Would it be odd if they were all men? If they were all from the U.S. Attorney's Office and there were 6 of them, it would be a little odd. Yes. Because, you know, you would expect it to be roughly even. So yeah, it'd be a little odd if they were all men. It's, you know, just a little odd. If there were 6 people there from the U.S. Attorney's Office and they were all standing there and they were all men, it'd be like, yeah, it's a little odd.
What we have in the indictment and also the detention letter that we filed, which contains more details than the indictment does at various points, but we don't have anything more beyond that. Next question.
Lynn Tran, CNN.
Are any of his accomplices or associates under investigation? And additionally, could he face any more charges?
So the investigation is ongoing. That means both as to him and to anyone else who we believe committed the crime with him. Next question.
Juliet Papa.
Hi, good morning from 1010 Wins. Any indication that some of the women or victims here were imprisoned in his...
Victims here? Well, she mean literally in the room or just in the case?
Residences, and did he have locations where he kept them, and they were not allowed to leave? And also, he's indicted here, although there were searches and raids in LA, Miami. Why in New York?
Well, I'm biased. I'm the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York. I think that we have an outstanding track record of bringing some of the most impactful, sprawling, complex, difficult sex trafficking, human trafficking, labor trafficking, you name it. The Southern District of New York can do it, and so we're very proud of that. And so the scope and complexity of this investigation isn't something that we ran from. It's something that we embrace, and we will continue to do that. As to your question about whether he imprisoned anyone, all I can say is that, I mentioned this March 2016 incident where something was caught on video where a victim was attempting to flee, and there was violence that was associated with it.
Was that at the residence or a hotel?
That was at a hotel.
Matthew Lee, Inner City Press.
Thanks a lot. Does your office intend to seek remand, or are you reaching a bail package? And if you're willing, how would you contrast this with the R. Kelly case in EDNY in terms of the elements? Thanks.
So we will be seeking detention. We have filed a letter laying out our reasoning for seeking pretrial detention. I'm not going to be able to expand beyond what's in the letter, but it contains all of the reasoning, and it contains the law as well. There is a presumption of detention in a case like this, and we think that's warranted.
John Anise, New York Daily News.
Thank you. I was hoping to get some more detail about the searches of his residence, the guns, the cases of lubricant, and the videos. Where were they found amongst his residence? Were they all scattered around the houses in one place? So I kind of wanted to just get a better picture of how that stuff was found.
Well, look, I think that some of the details that you're seeking are in the detention letter. So, for instance, some of the AR-15s, 2 of the 3 defaced AR-15s were found in his bedroom closet in Miami, broken down into parts along with magazines with ammunition loaded in them. So some of that detail is in the detention letter. Beyond that, I'm not going to be able to get into where other items were stored.
Ben Kochman, Post.
Hey, thanks for doing this. Your office was the office that had been prosecuting Jeffrey Epstein before he died in custody. I have not read your detention memo yet. It's the first thing I'm going to do after this ends. But does the memo address, or is your office concerned with Combs' safety in custody, given what happened with Epstein?
So we are concerned with anyone's safety whenever they are detained prior to trial. It's part of our obligations to keep people safe as well. It's part of the criminal justice system. So, but I do not draw any sort of connection between Jeffrey Epstein's suicide and what may or may not happen to any other defendant while they are detained pretrial. And of course, the decision whether to detain the defendant will be up to a judge. Our position is that pretrial detention is warranted under the law and based on the facts of this case, and I'll leave it at that.
Are some of the prosecutors on this case some of the same prosecutors that had been handling that, or that worked on the Maxwell case?
So I'm not going to get into the staffing. I will say that this team, this group of AUSAs, this incredible group has been working on this case around the clock, and they've had their hands full. Next question.
Gus Rosendale, NBC News.
Good morning, sir. Combs' attorney said that his client has been cooperative with investigators. He said that this morning. I was wondering if you would have a reaction to that.
Let me just say this. I think that generally and with increasing frequency, the word cooperative or cooperating has taken on tremendous elasticity, and it no longer really bears any relation to what the word means when we use it in a very specific context. So responding to lawful process and the like does not qualify as cooperation when we use that term here.
Mike Sisak, AP.
Thanks. To that end, was there any discussion of Mr. Combs surrendering? I understand he was taken into custody at a hotel in Manhattan last night, and maybe that wasn't the plan. Can you elaborate on how that came about and why that was?
I'm not going to be able to get into any sort of operational details as to how he was taken into custody and when. He is in custody right now. He will be appearing in court later today.
Was there any discussion of him surrendering, given they claim he's cooperating?
I'm not going to be able to get into law enforcement tactics or operations.
It's a big deal with the gun. How come they're not charged outright or with obliterating civilians? That's automatic.
Well, I can't get into the charging decision. It is very meaningful to us that weapons were possessed, as we allege in the indictment. Part of the reason why this conduct was so pervasive and harmful was because victims and others didn't necessarily feel comfortable denying him his wishes, as we allege, because of the presence of firearms. I should leave it there.
Thanks. Last question, Jacob Shameson.
Jacob Shamsian, Business Insider. Thank you. Given that he's the sole defendant in this case and that you allege he's part of a conspiracy that involves members of his companies, do you anticipate a superseding indictment that bring allegations against other members of his companies or other co-conspirators as well?
Again, I can't take anything off the table. Anything is possible. Our investigation is very active and ongoing. And I think a lot of you who cover this office know that when we say such things, that developments are certainly foreseeable, but I cannot predict them sitting here today. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. What part of his business empire is exposed to forfeiture?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, pretty matter of fact, just to the point. But let's also cover this letter that he alluded to, which I downloaded while we were waiting. How did New York City give him the key to the city? You mean the people that themselves were just like charged criminally, like the mayor and stuff? How they give him the key to the city? Yeah. Things are going very well for the New York City politicians right now, and I'm not sure if you noticed. Yeah, good times. All right, let's take a look at this detention memo. Thanks for covering it. You're welcome, Pandora Fox. All right. A lot of this will probably be repetitive of the indictment, so we might not read this word for word, but here is the letter that was filed about we'd really like to keep him in jail, and he would be kept in the same jail that Epstein was kept in. I'll let you conclude on that one. Other than Epstein, though, they had a pretty good track record. I mean, Epstein was the first fatality at that jail in like 23 years. So, but I take note. All right, so this was filed this morning. Dear Judge, the defendant, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, P. Diddy, and Love, was taken into custody this morning after a grand jury sitting in this district returned a 3-count indictment, charging with crimes related to a decades-long pattern of physical and sexual violence against multiple victims and use of force, threats, and coercion to enact his will, protect his reputation, and fulfill his sexual desires. The government respectfully submits this letter in anticipation of the defense appearance before this court later today, and in support of the government's request for defendant's detention pending trial. As set forth below, there is no condition or combination of conditions that will reasonably assure the appearance of the defendant as required and the safety of others and the community, not to mention the integrity of the proceedings. As reflected by the gravity of the charges in the indictment, the defendant is dangerous and poses an ongoing threat to the safety of the community. If released, he remains a serious risk of flight, despite the conditions offered by his counsel. Most glaringly, the defendant also poses significant risk of obstructing justice, which, fair enough. If released, he remains a serious risk of flight, despite conditions offered. Indeed, as set forth below, during the course of the conduct charged, defendant has attempted to bribe security staff and threatened and interfered with witnesses to his criminal conduct. He's already tried to obstruct the government's investigation of this case, repeatedly contacting victims and witnesses and feeding them false narratives of events as described below. There's simply no conditions that will ensure the defense efforts to obstruct and tamper with witnesses will stop. The defendant therefore cannot overcome the statutory presumption in favor of detention, and the court should therefore order him detained. Not going great. All right, let's see how much of this we need to read, because some of this will be in repetitive of the indictment. Okay, so here's something about the arson. So let's see, I'm going to have to speed read this so we don't miss anything, because there might be details interlaced. So let's see. All right. For example, in the early mornings of the hours of December 22nd, 2011, defendant and a co-conspirator kidnapped an individual at gunpoint to facilitate breaking into and entering the residence of another. Multiple witnesses will testify at trial to the events surrounding the kidnapping and break-in, the latter of which is reported by police reports and other records. If this happened in 2011, how was he not arrested for aggravated kidnapping, I want to know? is beyond me. That's a tier 1 felony. Kidnapping someone at gunpoint. Approximately 2 weeks later, defendant co-conspirator set fire to individual one's vehicle by slicing open the car's convertible top and dropping a Molotov cocktail inside the interior. Police and fire departments reports extensively document the arson and conclude the fire was intentionally set. Multiple witnesses will also testify, defendant bragging about his role in destroying the car. Same question. The defendant and members of the enterprise, including defendant's security personnel, at times carried firearms, and defendant himself carried and brandished firearms to intimidate. Indeed, some victims were aware of defendant's access to firearms. On one occasion, defendant forced a female victim to carry a firearm on his behalf. On another occasion, he pointed to a firearm at a female victim. Defendant continues to have access to guns, including illegal firearms. In March 2024, during searches of defendant's residence in Miami and Los Angeles, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including three AR-15s, each of which with the face serial numbers, as well as large capacity drum magazines. As pictured in a close-up, the serial number of one of the AR-15s is visibly bored through and obscured. Two of the three defaced AR-15s were found in defendant Miami ballroom closet, stored broken down parts, along with magazines. One of them had a 10-round magazine loaded with 10 rounds of .223, while another had a 30-round magazine loaded with 19 rounds of .223. A large capacity drum magazine had 59 rounds of .223 for some reason. In addition, 6 legally purchased guns with serial numbers, some of which were stored in gun safes, were recovered. Among those guns, both legal and illegal, were seized, where in the presence of defense homes demonstrate defendant has access to and surrounds himself with guns and ammo. Likewise, even if defendant was personally restrained from the court from obtaining new firearms for himself, he could retain access to them through others. Fair. In March 2016, the defendant was captured on video surveillance, striking, kicking, and dragging a woman in a public area of a hotel in an apparent attempt to prevent her from leaving a freak-off, which is pretty illegal. Okay, that's assault, that's battery, that's kidnapping, and that's forcing someone to engage in sexual acts, which is rape, incidentally. So that's exciting and fun. You could technically charge him with rape, because he forced a woman under duress to have sex with someone else. That would be rape. So there's that too. When a member of hotel security staff intervened, the defendant attempted to offer hotel security a stack of cash to ensure silence. After the security guard refused the bribe, and after coordination between defendant and his employees, defendant staff contacted other members of hotel security. At the same time, staff members were in close communication with the victim of the assault as well, all in an effort to cover up defendant's assault and prevent the incident from being publicly disclosed. Within days of the incident, surveillance footage disappeared. What's exciting and fun? Yeah, maybe you're just not familiar with the way I talk or communicate sometimes. Sometimes I say things in a very dry fashion when I kind of mean the opposite of it. I have a dry sense of humor. So when something really, really horrible happens and I say exciting and fun, it's because I mean exactly the opposite. It's just how sometimes I communicate in a very dry way. And the reason I do it is because it helps a little bit to mitigate the horror of it. So if it's the first time you're ever hearing me, that would be why. Yeah. On at least 2 occasions, the defendant recorded the calls on a co-conspirator's cell phone, therefore attempting to obscure his involvement in the obstruction. And depending on what state he was in at the time, that might be illegal too, because that could technically be wiretapping, depending on the relevant jurisdiction at the time. All right. Under the Bail Reform Act of federal law, federal courts are empowered to order detention upon determination defendant is either a danger to the community or a risk of flight, which is the reason we do bail. A finding of risk of flight must be supported by preponderance of evidence. A finding of dangerousness must be supported by clear and convincing evidence. Obstruction by justice is another ground for detention. Courts in the Second Circuit, where we are, this is Second Circuit, have held the pretrial detention for obstruction of justice is appropriate as long as the government can establish clear and convincing the risk of threat of injury to a witness or juror. The Bail Reform Act has 4 elements. Evidentiary rules do not apply, and they can offer evidence by way of proffer, which is by way we can just, the attorneys can just speak things into existence. We can just tell you it's true for the purpose of bail, because, yeah. When a judicial officer concludes that no condition or combination conditions will assure safety, the judicial officer shall order detention. Additionally, whereas here defendant is charged with sex trafficking, it shall be presumed that no condition will reasonably assure. So the law presumes in this situation detention. So it's the burden of the defendant to establish they shall not be. It's not the burden of the government in this situation. It's the government of it's the burden of the defendant. So good luck with that. The defendant is charged with serious and violent crimes. As charged in the indictment, defendant has physically and sexually abused women and others for the better part of 2 decades. Detention is particularly supported by facts of the case. Since 2008, defendant has engaged in serious acts of violence, including forcing and coercing women to participate in sexual activity, which again would be rape, including sex acts with commercial sex workers, which still makes it rape, by use of physical force, financial pressure, emotional abuse, and narcotics. Those acts, as described above, were referred to as freak-offs, among other names, and involved orchestrated and sexual performances facilitated through drug use that sometimes lasted for days, which I suppose, yeah, I have a very Scottish sense of humor. You understand it perfectly. Excellent. Yeah, I've been told I have a very British or Scottish sense of humor, but that, I guess that makes sense. My mother's side is Scottish through and through, so I guess, I'm half Scottish by genetic makeup. So I guess that explains where those sensibilities come from. So it's in my genes, baby. As set forth above, the charges against the defendant capture significant additional violence, both spontaneous and premeditated. On multiple occasions, the defendants assaulted women, employees, and others when he became enraged by throwing objects on the ground. Threw them on the ground. The whole objects too won't be part of the system. Multiple defaced semi-automatic rifles were recovered when we searched their evidence, including 2 defaced rifles that have been disassembled and hidden. In short, the conduct which the defendant is charged shows a pattern of violence and abusive conduct. It will not go to trial streamed. I'm sad to inform you. It will not be streamed. It's federal. I know. It's disappointing for us all. Moreover, the defendant's violence and abuse that occurred behind closed doors, including his homes, hotels where he's staying, and other private settings. He has assaulted victims, employees, and others, even brandishing a firearm in his home. The alleged sex trafficking similarly took place in private settings not easily monitored. Indeed, in addition to the freak-offs, the defendant has in time organized freak-offs at his home or the homes of the victims. That's just insult to injury, man. That's just insult to injury. Not only am I going to force you to engage in sex against your will, but I'm going to commandeer your house in order to have the party, and I use the term party loosely, to have the party that we're going to have that's going to force you to do it. That's just wrong, man. That's just wrong. You came into their home too? That's just wrong. That's just wrong. Right? That is just wrong. Even mafiosos like even criminals have, I mean, you know, there's a bit of a thing about doing things at someone else's home. Like you don't go to someone else's home. Like you can do, the idea of the home as sanctuary even has some respect among mobsters. And so that's just wrong. Obstruction. As part of the charged racketeering conspiracy, defendant engaged in obstruction of justice, including bribery and witness tampering. Given the history of the obstructive conduct, there's every reason to believe he'll continue to engage in it. As detailed in the indictment, following a freak-off in March 2016, we covered the bribe thing. Following the following of a lawsuit, the defendant stated in no uncertain terms, "Let me be absolutely clear. I didn't do any of the awful things alleged. I'm beginning to think he might have done some of the awful things alleged." Through counsel, defendant has vehemently denied these offensive and outrageous allegations, describing the complaint as riddled with baseless and outrageous lies. It was not until the video surveillance footage of the defendant's attack was leaked onto the media, defendant was forced to admit that he, in fact, had participated in the attack. Clearly, the defendant's willing to deflect, minimize, and lie, and induce others to do so to avoid taking responsibility. Yeah. Moreover, defendant has directly and through intermediaries engaged in obstructive conduct. Specifically following the lawsuit, defendant and intermediaries acting on his behalf reached out to potential victims and witnesses, including individuals he did not speak to regularly, has not spoken to in years, to attempt to feed these victims and witnesses false narratives about the conduct. With respect to two of the individuals, defendant's co-conspirators assisted in efforts to protect the defendant. For example, on or about November 19, 2023, just 3 days after filing the lawsuit, defendant made multiple calls to another victim of his sexual abuse and recorded certain of those calls using a cell phone of a co-conspirator, which again may violate wiretapping law, depending on where he was at the time the calls were being made. During the time, the defendant repeatedly asked for the victim's support and friendship and attempted to convince the victim she had willingly engaged in the acts. Defendant also assured the victim that if she needed the defendant to, she ain't got to worry about nothing else. A thinly veiled attempt to coerce the victim into adopting and supporting defendant's false version of events to protect the defendant. Even more concerning, since learning about the investigation, including following execution of search warrants, Combs contacted other witnesses on multiple occasions, including witnesses who'd received grand jury subpoenas. Then we're going to cite some precedents, some more precedent. Nor can the defendant overcome the presumption that he's a risk of flight. The crimes that he's charged with carry significant penalties, including a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years and a statutory max of life. Yeah, that would get my attention. 15-year minimum, that definitely gets my attention. The possibility of substantial sentence is a significant factor in assessing risk of flight. Here, defendant is facing at least 15 years. This fact alone would provide a compelling incentive for anyone to flee, but incentive to flee is especially strong for the defendant, who at age 54 faces the very real prospect of spending a substantial portion or all of the rest of his life in prison. As detailed below, this case makes incredibly powerful, set forth below. Dozens of victims and witnesses provide detailed, credible, and corroborated evidence against defendant. These individuals include many who personally experienced and witnessed violence and other crimes at hand. Moreover, their accounts are well corroborated by significant extrinsic evidence, including financial and billing records, travel records, electronic data, communications, including communications by and with the defendant himself. Again, the self-snitching is very real. For example, a victim testimony regarding freak-offs is at times corroborated by other witness testimony, communications in which the defendant and the commercial sex workers, travel records, hotel records, videos, and records reflecting payments. Similarly, a victim's physical abuse may be corroborated by, among other things, victims of abuse, photographs, reports made to law enforcement, communications with the defendant and others, and testimony from other witnesses who saw or heard the abuse. The vast and varied source of evidence will be compelling. The U.S. government doesn't fuck around. It's one of the reasons the U.S. government has a very, very high track record of conviction. It is well in excess of 90% for a reason, guys. The U.S. government does not fuck around. You know, the U.S. government does not fuck around. And the U.S. attorney does not fuck around. They are very, very serious people. They don't bring charges lightly because they really hate losing. They do not fuck around. I think the overall success, I think it's like 98 plus. It's 98% plus when you factor in plea deals. It's like 98, 99% success rate. Yeah, they don't fuck around. Don't get on their bad side. Moreover, in this case, risk of flight is augmented by the nature of the evidence. For decades, the defendant has spent significant time and resources ensuring his conduct avoids public scrutiny. Preach. Preach. Citing Madoff. Cute. Defendant's incentive to flee, as outlined above, couples with defendant's seemingly limitless resources, carry significant risk of non-importance. Defendant's net worth is publicly estimated at being close to $1 billion. Not for long, it's not. Indeed, the investigation of this case has revealed the defendant has access to vast funds, including deep reserves of cash, which would facilitate his evasion of prosecution. At least as of December 2023, the defendant has access to dozens of bank accounts, some personal and some corporate, which contains millions of dollars. Additionally, as of December 2023, the defendant had over $1 million in personal cash on hand, like in a safe. Did he have it in a personal safe in his house? Defendant has traveled internationally several times per year since at least 2016, and since approximately 2019 has owned a plane on which he's traveled internationally. Defendant maintains 2 primary residences. In addition to his private plane, defendant owns multiple vehicles in multiple locations. He has personal staff, including assistants, security, chefs, trainers, and others, who perform tasks at his command, including transporting him, delivering him currency, securing narcotics for him, and other tasks. And is extraordinarily well connected both within and outside entertainment. In short, if defendant wanted to flee, he has money, manpower, and tools to do so. $20 from maximum bacon. Is it possible that crimes described but not in the indictment will be lesser included or passed on to the state? Yes. Well, passed on to the state isn't exactly correct, but I'll answer your question. So both the states and federal government have simultaneous concurrent jurisdiction unless otherwise provided for by law, which is very rare. And even then, at best, it gives the feds priority. But the typical rule is whoever gets to you first. And so he could very well be facing state charges regardless of what the federal government does, because the federal government prosecutes federal crimes and the state governments prosecute state crimes. So in terms of like passing it on or not, like the states can bring a charge anytime they want for any reason they want. They don't need the feds' permission or blessing to do so. They just need to wait in line because, you know, the feds got to them first. In terms of like, you know, information being passed between the various offices, yeah, that happens all the time. You know, the feds pass information to the states pass information to the feds. They cooperate. They work together in their respective domains. You know, they have a working relationship. But yeah, they can. In terms of like other things that aren't charged, they could be charged at a different time, although that's a little less likely, but it's possible. There could be a superseding indictment, you know, just to get something off the ground so that we have it, the superseding, and then we could have a superseding indictment for other charges, or they could be used as evidence for other charges. So all those things are very possible. Thank you for your question and for the support. It is outstandingly appreciated. Thank you. And they can use the feds' evidence. Yeah, generally speaking, that's correct. And they both can use each other's evidence. Evidence belongs to everybody. Every man's evidence, you know. So the states use the feds' evidence, the feds use the states' evidence. Generally speaking, that's correct. And sometimes, and also incidentally, it can be interesting because sometimes like evidence that's suppressed under one jurisdiction won't be as for another jurisdiction as an operation of law. So I couldn't give you a good example off the top of my head, but it's possible that a confession that was illegally obtained as far as state law is concerned may not be illegally obtained as far as federal law is concerned, or I suppose vice versa. The suppression issues aren't exactly identical. For that matter, they're not exactly identical from state to state either, you know, because of different case law and different precedent and stuff like that. So it means that evidence that it can mean that evidence that could not be used by one authority can be used by a different authority. So that's fun as you're getting multiple bites at the apple, Now you have multiple jurisdictions under multiple different interpretations of law with multiple different judges, and now different judges interpreting the same thing, or essentially the same thing in different ways. Exciting and fun for you, right? Good times. Don't do crimes involving multiple jurisdictions. Don't do crimes involving multiple jurisdictions. The defendant's lack of access to his passport or private jet would not negate the fact the defendant could easily buy his way out of facing justice. As discussed below, the defendant's legal team has attempted to mitigate the substantial risk of flight by taking steps such as taking his family's passports, attempting to sell his plane, and reporting his whereabouts to the government. These steps have been taken with the precise goal of crafting an argument for bail. Well, no shit. No shit they've been taken with an argument for crafting bail. No shit. That's their job. While the defendant may have made the calculated decision in consultation with his attorneys not to flee before any charges were filed, that calculus inevitably changes today, when an indictment charging the defendant with extremely serious offenses carrying enormous potential penalties was unsealed. He is now, for the first time in his life, facing mandatory minimum of 15 years and a maximum term of life, in which the government is prepared to prove the charges against him by, among other things, the testimonies of dozens of witnesses and victims and evidence from dozens of his own electronic devices, which in the end will be the thing that will convict him, because of course it will. Given the serious nature of the charges, the strength of the evidence, and access to vast amounts of resources, his risk of flight is more pronounced today than it's ever been. In considering the dangerousness of flight, the court is also required to consider the weight of evidence, because we don't want people held indefinitely on ship. Defendant faces a strong and powerful case here, only magnified by the dangers he could present to others, especially victims and witnesses ready to testify against him and the risk he flees. The evidence in this case consists of vast amounts of victims and witness testimony, electronic evidence, physical evidence, and subpoena returns, and other voluntary productions. As witnesses, to date, the government has conducted an interview with over 50 victims, many of whom saw or experienced the defendant's abuse. Many of the victims corroborate one another, and their accounts are similarly consistent. The government only expects this number to grow. We've got 50 witnesses against you, sir. We've got 50 witnesses, 5-0. 5-0 witnesses, plus the tapes, plus the evidence on your own phone, plus the evidence we found at your house with the baby oil and the other shit. It's not going great. Not going super duper well for Mr. Combs over here. Things are not looking super duper positive for him. Not going great. Yeah. Yes, he can be pardoned, of course. I don't think the president is going to go out of his way to pardon him, but yes, of course, it's federal, which means that yes, Joe Biden can, of course, pardon him or commute his sentence. But I'm guessing that Joe Biden is probably not the biggest P. Diddy fan. But yes, that's true. Technically, it's true. The electronic evidence is similarly vast. The government has sought and obtained numerous search warrants for such evidence, and in addition to seizing evidence voluntarily from certain victims and witnesses. Setting aside devices seized in connection with defendant's arrest, setting aside the defendant's own devices, the government has obtained 90 cell phones, laptops, and cloud storage accounts, as well as 30 other electronic and storage devices, such as hard drives, thumb drives, cameras, and surveillance footage. The electronic data comes from the defendant himself, as well as co-conspirators, victims, witnesses, and chronicles much of his activity. Exciting and fun. Exciting and fun. I know the U.S. Attorney considers it exciting and fun. I'm quite sure they consider it exciting and fun. And they're going to have all kinds of excitement and fun for quite a while. The evidence also consists of physical evidence, which was seized pursuant to search warrant, executed at his house as well as on his person. In addition to the firearms and electronics, the physical evidence includes other evidence of free-offs, including 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Just incidentally, and not for nothing, why do you need to stock up on that much baby oil? You can literally buy baby oil anywhere. You can buy it at any pharmacy or Walmart or Target or a grocery store. It's baby oil. Why do you need to like have 1,000 bottles at your house? Just go to the store and buy more. You can get it anywhere. Bulk discount? You think it's a Costco thing? You think he has a Costco card? And that'd be good. Yeah, you think he has a Costco card and he couldn't resist the temptation of that 1,000-pack bulk buy Costco purchase? Nah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's what's going on. That's fair. For all the reasons set forth herein, there is no bail package that can reasonably assure the safety of others in this case, when defendant has engaged in a decades-long pattern of violence. In particular, the bail package proposed by defense is insufficient because it fails to adequately protect others from violence, imposes measures to prevent and defeat obstruction, or prevent defendant from accessing vast resources. Defendant's counsel has proposed certain bail conditions, including home detention with electronic monitoring, and $50 million bond secured by defendant's Miami property. These conditions are plainly insufficient to address the legitimate concerns set above, in particular given defendant's history of engaging in obstructive conduct. The court must reject the insufficient conditions proposed, which is nothing to prevent and detect such conduct. $2 from Hamilton Burger. Diddy had a Costco black card for real deals. I understand. $50 million bond is unconstitutional. That's the defendant's proposal. Did you not pick up on that? You say $50 million bond is unconstitutional. That's what the defendant's asking for. That's their idea. That's not the U.S. government's idea. That's the defendant's idea. How about $50 million? If you think it's unconstitutional, you have to talk to the defense's lawyers. Jesus. For example, in U.S. v. Ferranti, a case in which defendant was charged with witness tampering, and where obstruction remained an ongoing concern, the Second Circuit reversed the district court's release on defendant on bail conditions because the $1 million bond, which was secured by properties owned by the defendant and members of his family, only deterred the flight but not danger. More specifically, the Second Circuit found the district court's bail conditions intend to address witness tampering, which is a general prohibition defendant was not to commit a crime or intimidate witness, does not at all impede his ability to do so, and require no more of that of which the law already demands from a defendant and every other citizen. Fair. Notably, defendants' previously proposed conditions do not include provisions related to his access of electronic device, which is outlined above defendant uses to engage in this conduct. Nor the proposed conditions include information relating to restrictions on access to resources, including bank accounts in his name, and other stuff. Sincerely, we'd like him held in jail forever. And here, we have Exhibit A, which is a video exhibit. We attached video to the exhibit. I'm sure the video is enlightening. I don't know whether or not we can get a copy of the video. Should we try to see if we can? Let's pull up Pacer. I don't know. Let's find out. Probably not, but we're going to try. Give me 1 second, please. Talk amongst yourselves. Let's see. Southern District in New York. Query, please. Come on. Case number 124-CR-00542. Okay. Next. Docket next. Let's see. This is exhibit number 5. Nope. Sadly, no. No. I'll run the full docket report just in case. No, sadly, no. Just the PDF. Very disappointing for us all. No exhibit. Oh, well. Dark web? Yeah, maybe. But we shall see. Of course, this is federal, which means there's no videotape of any of this, so there will be nothing broadcast. There will be no stream. Very disappointing and very sad. So what can I answer for you if there's any other questions? Call Hunter? Maybe. 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 Can people attend the federal trial? Yes. Maybe. It's open to the public. So sure, you can attend the trial in person. Absolutely. Can people attend the federal trial? Yes. Maybe. It's open to the public. So sure, you can attend the trial in person. Absolutely. Can people attend the federal trial? Yes. Yep. It's open to the public. So sure. I wish federal court was streamed. Trial in person. Absolutely. I think trial courts probably should be streamed. Yeah. Or at least videos. So sure. I think that's probably good. I don't really have a particularly strong position on appellate courts. I don't really think there's very much gained from the video from appellate courts. I don't really have a particular. I don't really mind audio only. Like, I just think it doesn't bother me from the video because there's really not that much to be gained from the video. It's just like people standing around, nothing really is happening, right? So there's nothing. But at trial, of course, you're watching because you're watching the witnesses and you're watching to see the testimonies and watching to see their body language and assess their credibility and other things, and also see the exhibits. So since trials are more of a fact-finding exercise, the use of video is much more interesting. Also see the exhibits. So since trials are more of a fact-finding exercise. My bad. Sorry. That was me. I opened my own stream up, but I have the audio output going to my earphones, so I didn't hear it. And so you were hearing my own stream on delay. That's hilarious. That's just bad. That's just bad streaming, Kurt. That's bad stream, Muju. Have I covered the Delphi case? A little bit. Yeah, I've covered the Delphi case. I covered it when it was appealed to the Supreme Court for the first time on the issue of the attorneys being kicked off the case, and that case has continued to get more wild. I saw the district court said that the defense wasn't able to present their theory about it being Odin coldest because there wasn't enough evidence to support that theory. So I saw that memo across my desk. I've been following it super closely, but a little bit. Kestrel's behind the times. It's okay, Kestrel. It's fixed now. Uncivil made a mistake. You could play with the echo. You could play with the echo delay. Did you ever see that video by who was it by? I could find it if I did. It was like, but a person did a music video using the delay of Facebook. And they used Facebook Live and they used the delay for the purpose of creating feedback loop for creating loops on their instruments. It was really, really cool. It was really well done. And they did it all in one take, as you would expect, and it was really fun. Did you ever see that video? We could share. Also, by the way, while you're here, because there's 500 of you here. We're going to take a moment before we talk about the looping video for me personally. Okay. The last episode of the Grand Tour was aired on the 13th. This is a big deal for me. I am sad. I am sad on Civil, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about being sad on Civil. So first of all, question, are there any fans here other than me? And I don't really care because I'm going to talk about it anyway. Are there any fans here other than me of Top Gear and the Grand Tour? Hopefully the answer is yes, because otherwise it's just going to be me talking for a while. So yeah. Anyways, for those of you unfamiliar with Top Gear and the Grand Tour, it is ostensibly a car show that features Richard Hammond, James May, and Jeremy Clarkson. Okay? And involves this trio. And they've been doing it now for 22 years between the two programs. They were on Top Gear together for 19 years. And then Jeremy Clarkson punched a producer in the face over not getting a hot dinner. And then he was fired. And then the trio, including, I think, potentially that same producer, incidentally, I think left and went to Amazon and have been hosting the show over there for a couple years. And it is something I've been watching for, I think, the entire time. I'm not quite exactly sure when I got into Top Gear, but it was very, very early days. Like season 3 or, series 3, they would call it, because they're British. They don't call them seasons, they call them series. So since series 3 or something like that, and I've seen every episode. I've even seen series 1 with Jason Dawes. So I know about the Dawes. Don't come at me. I know my lore, right? And so I've been watching Top Gear. I've been watching Top Gear and Grand Tour for 20 years. And I am sad panda. This show has come to an end. And I feel like I need a goddamn therapy group to talk to it about. I need a whole group of people I can talk to about it and, like, you know, come to terms of go through my grieving process of it being over, because it was awesome and I miss it. I miss it so much. And they are still doing other things. Jeremy Clarkson is doing his farm show, which is great. So he's now a farmer, and that's fun and hilarious. Richard Hammond has a show where he does some stuff on a car thing, but that's on Discovery Plus, which I don't have access to. And James May is doing some other stuff, including a cooking thing, which was on Amazon Prime, which is pretty hilarious. But I miss it. I watched every episode of it multiple times. I'd like to go through a few of my favorite segments with you from Top Gear and the Grand Tour. A few of the ones that I like the best. All right, one of the ones I like the best, and probably not one that would get mentioned as a favorite for many, was when Jeremy Clarkson raced a guy named David Muir over the London Marathon course on an average day in London. Jeremy Clarkson was driving a Fiat Panda 4x4, and he raced a guy. So it was man versus car. Who can get to the end of it faster? And the only conceit of it was it's an average day in London, so the course isn't like set separately. And the guy won. The guy got there faster. The traffic and congestion was so bad that the guy beat him, which is just hilarious. So that race was a great one. And another one I really liked was, of course, the 24-hour race. Was fantastic when they were driving that diesel BMW at Silverstone, I believe it was. And that was a really cool race. I like that one. And there are a lot of other great memories. My favorite special is, that's where you're going to get into debates with people. I'll tell you this right now. The last one was not my favorite. It was fine, but it definitely wasn't my favorite. I would prefer the original Botswana special. I think my favorite might be Bolivia, with the 4x4s going through the jungle. It might be my favorite special. but there are so many great ones. It's kind of hard to have a favorite. I mean, most people would probably say the Polar Special is their favorite, which, you know, the Polar Special is fantastic. The Vietnam Special was also very nice and special with the bikes. That was really cool. But I think the Bolivia Special might be my favorite. But I will now take your discussion about which Top Gear or Amazon Prime you like best. The Scandy flick is fine. Yeah, Scandy is fine. I need to see some of the specials again, but yeah. The one where they did like they turned the cars into boats, the Seaman one that they did on Amazon was pretty good. You enjoyed the helmeted driver. You enjoyed the Stig. You enjoyed the Stig, who was Ben Collins. Yeah. Anyone else a Top Gear fan? I don't see a lot of people chatting in there. Yeah, the producer one too. Yeah. So, yeah. And it was ostensibly a car show, but it was mostly about the trio. It was about the chemistry between the three was unreal. And we may never see its like again. And the chemistry between those three was just so unreal. And I will miss it horribly. I'll miss it horribly. Yeah, the U.S. road trip after Katrina, painting the cars. Yeah, that was a really early special. That was earlier than Botswana, I think, with the U.S. road cars and getting the cars for $1,000. Or the cheap car challenge. Anyone remember when they bought cars for under 100 pounds? And they had challenges with that, which I didn't even know was possible. And I don't know if that's still possible in the UK today. But they were each of them able to buy cars in the UK for under 100 pounds. And like drive them to Scotland and back and then have competitions with them. And Jeremy, his Volvo cost £1. And it was like a real car with wheels and an engine and everything. And he bought it apparently for £1. I didn't even know that kind of thing was possible, but apparently it's possible, or at least it was at the time. Stig was not always Ben Collins. That's true. It was not always Ben Collins, just for the most of the time. Yes, that's true. In the early part, there was Black Helmeted Stig, who was someone different. That's true. Reliant Robin Rocket. That was great. Yeah. We're going to turn the Reliant. What I need from you is to design the most difficult kind of rocket, a space shuttle. And then the two engineers just look at each other, right? The two engineers who actually like know what they're talking about. Like the one engineer turns to the other guy and the other guy just turns to him and they give each other a look. And so much is communicated in that look. It is unreal. It is unreal. Oh, it says he was working with the feds as an informant, and that's how he got away with it for so long. Interesting. Interesting if true. And then, of course, when they fire Jeremy Clarkson, they tried to reboot Top Gear with different people. The only person worthy of the name is Sabine Schmidt, of course, who died of cancer tragically, which is just unfair. She was the best. She was the best presenter, and I'm so glad they brought her on to Top Gear after the trio left. You know, and they tried to reboot it, and they brought Sabine on for a couple seasons until she basically died. But she was the best, the queen of the Nürburgring. Her race around the Nürburgring in a van is the thing of legends, right? It's like she is the thing of legends. She took a diesel van around a Nürburgring and tried to make a 10-minute lap time, which is just fucking insane. And she did 10:08. She couldn't make 10 minutes, but she did 10:08, and it was just like unbelievable. And I'm sad, very sad she's dead. And that sucks, man. But yeah, the Sabine Schmidt was the best of the replacement presenters. The destroying the pickup truck, destroying the Hilux pickup truck. That was a great little segment. Yeah, destroying the pickup truck, fantastic one. We're gonna drop it from a tower block in Hackney, East London. Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, the Hilux, which is why they chose the Hilux for their Arctic trip, because it was so unbeatable, unkillable. Yeah, the attempted killing of the pickup truck is very, very real. It did survive. It absolutely did survive. It 100% survived. They were not able to kill it. Yeah, they threw it into the sea. They hit it with a wrecking ball. They set it on fire. They dropped it from a 23-story building, and the damn car didn't die. It just wouldn't die. No matter what they did, it wouldn't die. It's great. It just kept running. It's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, you can't buy a Hilux in the US. We just have the Toyota. We just have the Tacoma instead, which I'm not sure how that compares to the Hilux. But the fact that they do not sell the Hilux in the US has got to be like a crime. That should be illegal that they don't sell the Hilux in the US. You think he's going to get remanded? My prediction is he'll get remanded. Yeah. My prediction is he's going to get remanded. Yeah. All right, let's watch this video, which I'll probably get it flagged for. No, I don't want to watch it because I'll probably get a copyright strike if I do it. I don't know if I'll get a copyright strike or not. I probably will. Yeah, it's worth it. Oh yeah, I'm a big fan. Tom Cruise in the F1 car. I met Jezza a couple times. I've never met Jezza. I'm sad. Hopefully one of these days I'll meet him. I'd love to meet Jezza. You know, I'd just be another fan to him. But I would love to shake his hand and be like, you meant a lot to me. I'm sure he's heard it countless times, thousands of times, tens of thousands of times. But it's like, yeah, you meant a lot to me. Maybe one of these days I'll go to his brewery at his farm and have some Hawkstone lager. Wonder if I could get it in the US. Maybe. They might ship to the US. I don't know. He's a genuinely nice dude. I believe it. I believe he's a genuinely nice dude. I believe it. Yeah, he seems like a cool guy. He seems like a cool guy to hang with. Yeah. He seems like a cool guy to hang with. The 3-wheel car, the Robin. How many times did they tip it over? Quite a few times. Yeah. Yeah. We'll watch one loop of this thing so you can get the idea. But, you know, in honor of me accidentally looping myself, I thought I'd show you like professionals do it. If you come over, come stay at mine if you like. I just took my boy to his farm last week. Okay, I'll try to keep that in mind. That loop was funny. Yeah. I'll show you professionals using the loop to advantage. This is The Academic, I believe is the name of the band. And the name of the song is bear claws. And I'll show you this because it's pretty good. He bought a pub to get around the annoyance of trying to open a restaurant on the farm. That makes sense. Yeah, I saw the problems just his problems with the council in general, just trying to operate his farm, man. They gave him so much shit just for trying to operate his farm. And he's like, he wasn't doing anything wrong. I think it was just pure jealousy. You know, it's just pure jealousy. They just tried to drag him down. And then he won his appeal. Thank God for most of it. And, you know, but yeah, it's like, it just seemed like a bunch of bitter people who were mad that he was getting success because people were going to his farm and his pub and stuff like that. It seemed just like bitter people. But yeah, so let's watch this thing for just a second. It was a chicken agreement with Europe that ruined our Hilux dreams. Fat Electrician has a video about it. I don't know about this one. I don't know about a chicken agreement with the Europeans. Yeah. Jez is very anti-bureaucracy. Yeah, no shit. So the bureaucrats saw an opportunity to create misery. Yeah. So this, yeah. So when you go live on Facebook, there's a delay before it shows up on the page. We use that delay to record loops. This was filmed in one take live on Facebook. All right. So they're going to use the delay of the live stream to create loops for the song, which is a great premise, right? Well, anyways, there's an example of someone using looping for better effect. At least I like it. So I admire its technical creativity for using a loop delay that's built into streaming to create an interesting effect. So it's I think it's creative. So I like it. So yeah. And some of the editing issues with sound is probably due to the medium, because it was being broadcast through Facebook, and the audio was being picked up back up through Facebook. So I imagine some of the audio issues are relation to the compression, probably, as it's getting re-looped, the audio is getting, past iterations are getting, reprocessed. So will tend to impact the audio, but hey, for what it was, I thought it was pretty damn great. So fun times. So yeah, that is all I have to say about that, really. And for the 341 of you who stuck around with me to listen to me talk about Top Gear and how much I love Top Gear and how much I miss it and how sad it makes me, and watch my video, or watch this video, I appreciate that you hung out with me for a little while. So hey, well, yeah, well, why don't we talk about what songs you like? I can talk more about what songs I like. We can talk about music for a little while. Like, what songs do you like? First of all, I think the best album of all time, I'm going to go with Nirvana's Unplugged in New York. I just think, it's the music that I was listening to when I grew up, and I think it's essentially flawless. And Melancholy's Infinite Sadness double album is pretty flawless too. So, any particular songs or things you'd like to talk about? Did we talk Diddy? We've been talking Diddy this whole time. We can talk Diddy, we can talk Top Gear, and we can talk music. We can talk any of these subjects at this point. We can go back to talking about Diddy. What else would you like to talk about? He's going to jail. He's going to prison. He's going to be convicted. He's going to get no less than 15 years, and he's probably going to get 25 years, and he's probably going to die in federal prison. There's the spoiler alert. And they have 50 witnesses, plus tapes, plus $1,000 bottles of baby oil, plus 90 cell phones, computers, cloud accounts, plus his own cell phones and recordings. It's not going great for Diddy. In Gregorian chant, I was into Gregorian chant for quite a while. I can definitely go down with some Gregorian chant. I respect that. If they're going to bring the baby oil into court, they may bring some of it. They probably won't bring all of it, but bring some of it. Yeah. They've got him dead to rights. The U.S. attorney doesn't fuck around. Gregorian chant? Yeah, I respect Gregorian chant, yeah. Sea shanties? Sea shanties are cool. Health to the Company is my favorite sea shanty. Health to the Company is I don't know if that's a sea shanty. It might be. But I like Health to the Company. There's that great line in Health to the Company. Make sure I get this right. Yeah. Come lift up your voices, all grief to refrain, for we may or might never all meet here again. I think that's a brilliant sentence. We may or might never all meet here again. And I've always enjoyed singing that at like Renaissance festivals and looking around, and I'm like, in a very literal sense, we will never all be here again. Right? I mean, there's just no way. Everyone who's in this crowd, right, is never going to all assemble at the same place again. Right? There will be someone missing. For not the least reasons me, because I'm not going to those Renaissance festivals anymore, because I was in Maryland and now I live in Texas, right? So I always enjoyed that phrase. It's like, this moment is a moment that won't repeat. And I'm like, it's pretty good. Pink Floyd The Wall. Pink Floyd The Wall is respectable. The Beatles' White Album is very good as well. Blackbird is my favorite Beatles song. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these lonely wings, learn to fly. All your life, you're always waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbird fly. Blackbird fly into the light of a dark black night. Weezer's coming to town, coming to Houston. I'm thinking about going to see them. They're playing their entire Blue album. So I'm thinking about going to see Weezer in person. That'd be cool. I haven't seen Weezer in person in quite a long time. So I think that'd be fun. Can I put up a poll to see who's watched Top Gear and who you should pity? Sure. Let's do Top Gear / the Grand Tour. I have watched most or all of it. I have watched some of it. I have seen something of it. And that option, I have never seen it, and I am sad. No, I've never seen it and am uncultured. I've never seen it / or comma, am uncultured. Great. We'll start a poll. Is it old Top Gear we're talking about? We're talking about anytime they were on TV. Grand Tour. We're talking about the trio, man. We're talking about the trio. At least since the reboot. Are you familiar with seasons 1 through 20 of Top Gear? You know, that thing. I've also seen all of Top Gear Australia and all of Top Gear US, which I'm sad they didn't stick around for longer. I mean, neither could hold a candle to the original, but then again, what can? But I thought they were fine. But I've seen all of Top Gear Australia and all of Top Gear of UK and all of Top Gear America. So it was disappointing Top Gear US didn't kick on around longer. I should have a complete Top Gear stream. You're probably right. Don't like Quentin Tarantino? I liked Kill Bill. I liked Kill Bill, and Pulp Fiction is okay. But I did not care for either of those ones, I have to say. All right, I guess I'm going to sign off for now because we've been talking about everything there's to talk about, and, you know, it's time for the video to end. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. We will be picking up the live trial of the Florida law professor who was murdered. I think on Thursday we're going to pick it up when the trial presumably starts. They're having jury selection today. And we'll probably pick it up on Thursday. So we're imagining we're going to be doing live streams. Jackie Brown sucks. And also, yeah, Jackie Brown sucks. Yeah. And so we'll pick that. Yeah. But for the poll, 32% of you, a third of you say you've watched most or all of it. 23% of you say you've watched some of it. 9 of you say you've seen something of it, and 36% say I've never seen it and are uncultured. Yeah, well, you should probably watch some of it. It's a good time. Hey, no time like the present to go rewatch it, man, right? So Yeah. I'm going to sign off for now. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.